All right, guys. So, in our notes, all right, we're going to start with comparing and ordering rational numbers. Okay. So yesterday we had fraction and decimal conversions, right? Making one into the other. Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to take a bunch of different fractions and decimals, and we're going to put them in order, least to greatest. Okay. So, when we do that, all right, you're going to have to convert them. So we're using yesterday's skills on today's lesson. So when it comes to our notes, here we go. We have 3 vocab words. So here we go. First one is rational number. Everyone?
Rational number.
All right, so here's what your book says a rational number is. It says the set of numbers that can be written in the form a over b, where a and b are integers and b does not equal 0. That's what your book says rational numbers are. Okay, so here's what you can write in your small box. So, an example of rational numbers, right, is 1. That's a rational number. Why? Because it can be written as a fraction, 1 over 1. Okay? Of course, a regular fraction like 2/9. Or even a decimal like -2 3/10. Why? Because I can change that to be a fraction like -23 over 10. Okay. Now, the next word is the word, and we're going to use this today, and you've heard it before in elementary school. It's common denominator. Everyone?
Common denominator.
So, here we go. It's pretty lengthy. It actually gives an example within the book's definition. So it says, a common multiple of the denominators of 2 or more fractions. It's a common multiple of the denominators of 2 or more fractions. Then it goes on to say 24 is a common denominator for 1/3, 5/8, and 3/4. So 3 different fractions. Because 24 is the LCM, meaning the least common multiple of 3, 8, and 4. So because it has an example right in the definition, we're not going to write an example in the box. Okay, so here we go. The last one is least common denominator. Everyone?
Least common denominator.
So your book sometimes will have like the abbreviation LCD. Okay, so least common denominator, here's what it is. It says the least common multiple of the denominators of 2 or more fractions. So when you're finding the least common multiple of the denominators, they call it the least common denominator. So it's pretty much the LCM of fractions. Okay, of the bottom number, the denominator of fractions. It says you can use the LCD to compare the fractions. And that's actually what we're going to be doing today. So for example, in your little box, if you have something like 1/2 and 2/4, you can find a common denominator, meaning you could put a number over 8. That's what the X means. It means you can find the common denominator of an 8. But the least common denominator, which is what this is a 4. Okay? So it's showing that you can put a number over 4. 4 being the denominator is the least common denominator. Shift over one, please. Shift over one desk. Thank you. Okay. Any questions, guys? Okay. All right, so here we go. For some examples. Okay. So, of course, we're starting with examples. So go ahead and grab your book if you haven't already done so, and flip over to page 274. 274. Alright guys, so this type of problem says fill in each circle with the less than, greater than, or equal to sign to make a true sentence. Then it just says use the number line if necessary. Okay, for today I'm not going to worry about a number line, so no worries with the number line. Alright, if you want to check with a number line, feel free, but you don't have to. Okay, so here is how we're going to do this. Okay, so step one. With step one, all you're doing is you're going to focus in on just the fractions. And the reason is because they both share a whole number, right? It's a mixed number. They both have ones. So we don't need to worry about the ones to compare these. We need to worry about the fractions to find out which fraction is greater. Okay? Now, step two is what we're going to do is we're going to take these two fractions and we're going to stack them on top of each other. Meaning I'm going to write 3/4 on top of 5/8. Okay. Now the reason why we're organizing it this way is we're going to need some space to the right, and it's going to be how we're going to use this kind of skill in a future lesson. Now, after we stack them, the reason why we're stacking them is to be able to do step 3. Oops, I'll put step 3 over here. And that is, we need to find a common denominator. Okay? So, when you find a common denominator, it's sometimes, of course, built like a fraction. That's why we stacked them. We have some space to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and write my fractions. Now, the denominator, remember, is the bottom number. All right? And when we compare them, it's much easier to compare these when we have a common denominator. And there's other ways to do it. Okay? Conversion to a decimal. You can use some, there's some other strategies. Okay? Cross multiplying, things like that. But for today, we're practicing common denominator, the common denominator method. So here we go. Now, I'm going to share with you guys, there are 3 ways to find, there are 3 ways to get a common denominator. Okay? The first way, see if the smaller can divide into the larger denominator. See if the smaller can divide into the larger. So what that means is, can 4 divide into 8? It actually can. That is the fastest, quickest, best way to find a least common denominator is by doing this. Now this only works every once in a while, and it happens to work here. Okay, but before we do that, I'm coming back to that. Before we do that, I'm going to show you another way, or 2 other ways that we can find common denominators. Okay? 2, if the two integers are small, so I'll put down if small, meaning 2 denominators are small, probably like single digits, for example, you can multiply them to find a common denominator. And a lot of us like doing that. Okay? Now, there's an issue with this. 4 times 8 is 32. And while that is a common denominator, it will not be the least common denominator. Meaning once we, if we were to add or subtract these, we're going to end up having to reduce at the end and give ourselves more work to do. Okay, but that is another method. Okay, so you could use 32 as a common denominator. Then the third one is actually making a list of the multiples. if you have no idea what I'm talking about, this is what I'm talking about. You take the two denominators, a 4 and an 8, and you start listing the multiples. So you'd say 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16. Those are what multiples are. Or with the 8, 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24. And these are, you can find common multiples or common denominators. So I could use a 16 as a common denominator because both 4 and 8 go into 16. But look at this. 8 is the least common denominator, least common multiple. So I can use 8 as well. All right? So that's the third way. Now, I'm going to go back here. If the small divides into the larger, 4 goes into 8, I can then use the larger one. Okay, so we found 8 this way, we found 8 this way. All right, this is, like I said, usually the fastest quick check. All right, so what we're going to do at this point is this. We found a common denominator. Now we're going to do step 4, find the numerators. All we're doing is we're only changing the way these look. They're going to be equivalent fractions. All right, so what we have is we have 4 times 2 is 8. So whatever you do on the bottom, 4 times 2 is 8, we do on the top. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay? Down here, 8 times 1 is 8. So 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, now that we have, here's why we did all that work. Because step 5 is we're now going to compare the numerators. We're now going to compare numerators. The 6 and the 5. Guys, which one's bigger? 6 or 5? 6. Yeah, 6. If the numerator's bigger, right? 6 eighths is bigger than 5 eighths. That means that this number here is bigger than that, which means that 3/4 is bigger than 5 eighths, which means going all the way back to the beginning, we're going to go ahead. After we compare the numerators, that's going to give us the answer. 3/4 is bigger than 5 eighths. That means 1 3/4 is larger than 1 5 eighths. All right. Questions? Okay. So here's what I'm going to have you guys do. Because you're going to have bigger fractions, different fractions that if you look at it, you might not know what the answer is. So, and then on top of that, on your homework, I need proof that you did it. I mean, because how easy is it just to put an alligator mouth that way or this way? It's a 50-50 chance, right? But that's not what I'm teaching you guys. I'm teaching you how to get the correct answer 100% of the time, and this is what you need to do to get that. Okay, good question. All right, here's what I'm going to have you guys do. Try out problem number 3. Don't worry about with a number line, like I said. Don't worry about with a number line. Go ahead and go to page 275. 275, part of your homework. Try out problem number 3. Problem number 3. Go. On your own. I'll let you guys share in just a bit. Try it on your own, following the steps. Okay, checking in. How many of you still need more time? Okay. Give you guys a little more time, and I'll check in just a bit. Those of you that finished it already, find a similar problem. You could start working on some of your homework right now. Okay, anyone need more time? Okay, about 15 seconds, and then I'm going to have you guys share. Okay. All right, so 30 seconds. Go ahead and share with your neighbor. All right, compare answers. Go. Okay. Problem number 3. So number 3 was 6 2/3 compared to 6 1/2. Now what you guys are about to see me do is you're about to see me do this problem without writing all the steps. You'll find that it's not very hard. There's not a lot to it. The steps are way longer than actually doing the problems. Okay? However, for those of you who are like, this is so much work, this is ridiculous. Well, I know it's a lot of work. Take a look how many problems we have. We only have 13 problems tonight because I know it's a lot of work. But you will be required to show your work just like we're doing here. Okay? That's why I only gave you 13 problems. That's not very many problems at all. But it's enough for you guys to get some good practice. So here we go. All right, so step 1, right? I see that they're both 6, so I'm going to take these two fractions, and I'm going to do step 2. I'm going to go ahead and stack one on top of the other. So 2/3 and 1/2. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around and find common denominators. Now 2 does not go into 3, but they are extremely tiny numbers. I'm going to go ahead and multiply the two of them. I'm going to use that method. 2 times 3, I can use 6 as a common denominator. Now that I have a common denominator, I can find equivalent fractions. So, like we said, when you do that, 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. So I have my numerator there. 3 times 2 is 6. So 2 times 2 is 4. And now what do? I compare my numerators. 4 6 is better or bigger than 3 6. That's bigger. So 2/3 is larger, which means I answer it 6 2/3 is larger than 6 1/2. Okay. Guys, before we move on to the next one, questions? Well, I just did the steps. You don't have to write the steps on each problem, but you have to do the steps. You don't have to write them. That's just for notes. But yeah, I just did all the steps right there. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, I'll get it after. Okay. There are no questions. Let's go on to the next one. 275, problem number 6. Okay, problem number 6, here we go. We have, it says order each set of numbers from least to greatest. So I have a number set of 23 hundredths as a decimal, 19% as a percent, we haven't seen that in a while, since elementary school probably, and 1/5. All right, so here we go. We're going to order at least to greatest. Step 1. I want you to convert everything to decimals using yesterday's lesson, yesterday's skill. So here we go. Well, here we go. Nice thing is that one's already a decimal, so 23 hundredths. Okay? 19%, if you forgot how to convert a percent to a decimal, I'm going to move the decimal over 2 times to the left, so that gives me 19 hundredths. And then this one, like we talked about yesterday, is just bottom into top, so 5 goes into 1. Put my decimal point right. 5 goes into 10 though, 2 times, put my 2 over the 0, bless you. 10 minus 10 is 0. Move my decimal straight up, so I have 0.2. Now, here's what I'm going to write down in your notes right here, is make sure they have the same number of digits. Because if you do that, then it's much more accurate or easier to compare. Take a look. If you count the 0, this has 3 digits, this has 3, this only has 2. So all I have to do is add a 0 behind it. And now when we compare, we can look at it like it is almost like whole numbers. So now step 2 is I'm going to put them in order. So if I'm looking here, it'd be like 19 is the smallest, 19 hundredths, then 20 hundredths, and then 23 hundredths. Now, step 3 is very, very important, and this is where a lot of people don't do it. You need to do this, okay? Because if you have a multiple choice test, the multiple choice answers are always going to be in original form. So when you give an answer, you need to put it in the original form. So here we go. 19 hundredths was not 19 hundredths, it was 19%. 20 hundredths was not 20 hundredths, right? It was 1/5. And then 23 hundredths was 23 hundredths. So I write it down as 23 hundredths. And there is our answer. So convert them to decimals, then put them in order, making sure decimals have the same number of digits will make your life a lot easier. Order least to greatest, and then convert them back to the original form. So you don't have to convert anything, you just look here and match them up. Okay. Any questions on that type of problem? Okay. I'm going to give you guys, let's give you guys 1 minute. I want you to try out problem number 7. Okay. Remember for number 7, guys, negative values. Okay. Remember, for example, -6 is smaller than -2. So if you're talking negative numbers, be careful because it's almost like the opposite is true with negative, right? Meaning on the positive side, 8 is bigger than number 2, but on the negative side, -2 is bigger or larger than -8. So be careful when you do that. All right? Okay. I'll give you guys a minute. Let's go. Anyone need more time? Okay, give you about 30 more seconds. Okay, 30 seconds. Go ahead and please turn to your neighbor and share. Go.
It's negative 5. Or no. I have negative 5. Yeah, I need that. So this. So it's negative 0.62 and negative 5.
I don't know how it happened. Car was set up all week, so I filled it out.
I got you. Thank you. Okay. Here we go. Really quickly, let's take a look at this. We have on number 7, it is, the number set is negative 615 thousandths, negative 5/8, and negative 62 hundredths. Okay? Now, here's a nice part. I'm going to convert to decimals, right? So this is already a decimal. This is already a decimal. However, I'm going to make sure that this has 3 digits, or 4 total digits, 3 to the right of the decimal. So I put a 0 there. All I need to do now is convert this. Now this, first of all, is a negative. I'm going to go 8 into 50, bottom into top. So it goes in 6 times. 6 times, sorry, I forgot my decimal. Be careful with that. 6 times 8 is 48. That is 2. Put an extra 0. Bring it down. That goes in 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract. That's 4. Bring the 0 down. 8 goes into 45 times. Bring your decimal straight up. So this is 0.625. Okay? Now, I then need to order least to greatest. Now, this could be tricky. Remember, if these were positive, this would be the smallest. Then that, then that. But remember, it's on the negative side of the number line, so opposite is true, like we talked about earlier. Meaning that instead of that being the largest, that's the smallest. Then this one, and then that one. Now don't forget, we have to put it in original form. So the 625, okay, that was the negative 5/8. The negative 620 thousandths was the negative 62 hundredths. And the negative 615 thousandths was exactly that, negative 615 thousandths. Okay, questions on that? Okay, now before we start packing up, I do want you to take a quick look at page 274, problem number 3. I'm going to share with you, all right? It's not any kind of a skill that we haven't already been over in the last 2 days, but I do want to get you started on it. So if you take a look, it says Elliot and Shanna are both soccer goalies. Elliot saves 3 goals out of 4. Shanna saves 7 goals out of 11. Who has a better average, Elliot or Shanna? Explain. So a couple of things. First of all, Elliot saves 3 out of 4 goals. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what they're telling you. Shanna saves 7 out of 11. This is what they're telling you. Then they're saying, basically, who's the better keeper? Which one has a better average? Here's what they're talking about. Compare the two. That's what they're asking you to do. Of course, don't forget to explain. Okay, so all you're doing is basically doing the steps that we did on the first 2 problems in the lesson. Okay, you will have some word problems very similar to that, so be careful with that. All right.